You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 70. This week on the show, it's Q&A time as we take on questions from you, the listeners. All right, welcome to the 70th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We are your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. I'm your host, Josh Palm. Check us out, hpoutdoors.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, iTunes, Stitcher, all the places you can find great podcast quality content. You can find the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. Joining me today, as he always does, the one and only Minivan Dan. What's up, man?
Minivan? No, not much. I like talking to you so much. Back to weekly shows, and we
talk so much more now. It's so much better. I do have to make an admission here. This episode is not going to come out for like 2 weeks because I'm traveling next week, and we don't normally record on Friday nights, but it's Friday, February 9th right now. And we decided it was going to be Friday drinking show. So I'm enjoying, ice cold, Miller Lite. What's yours of choice right now?
Limerita.
I shouldn't have even asked. Probably knew that. Anyway.
No, I got a Jim Beam and Coke.
Got it. But good. As the intro was finishing up there, I took a swig and I spilled a little bit on the floor.
Sweet.
So this is why we can't have nice things.
Nope. This is why we don't record on Fridays.
Correct.
Right now.
Correct. So anyway, we decided to take on some listener questions for this episode because we do get a lot, and we get a lot particularly through our Facebook group, the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast Listeners Group. If you're not in there, you can definitely check us out. Request permission, answer a few simple questions, and you'll be in the group. And you can interact with us directly and a bunch of other guys and gals in there. And that group's been growing really, really well. So we're super excited about what's going on in there. But we get a lot of questions asked in there, and not only, do we weigh in from time to time, but you get a lot of guys with a lot of different experience weighing in. So we thought, some of the questions that have been asked in there would be good, and we'll share our thoughts and maybe some of the thoughts of the other folks that are in there answering those questions. And, this is probably something that we should do maybe, I don't know, quarterly or so at least, just because a lot of things come up and get discussed, and, it could be beneficial for a lot of people. So we may do this a little more frequently, but, we got a few news stories, and unfortunately this is going to kind of be, because of the way we're recording this and when it's going to come out, it's going to be a little bit sort of, behind on
backdated.
Yeah. But anyway, some of the biggest news, probably if you're in our listeners group, that there's some folks in there that are pretty staunch LL Bean supporters, and they broke some pretty big news today, I guess it was, that they're no longer going to be doing the lifetime warranty for their products. And that was a really big one and a favorite for a lot of people, for their waders in particular.
Yeah, and this, well, I guess it won't be the last podcast, but the podcast prior, we talked about my main trip, and right when we got off the plane and I landed, we went straight up to their flagship store, and it was just awesome. But anyway, on the way there, Scott he's bragging about the policy a little bit and saying, it's sad that all these people go to yard sales and they'll buy shoes and shirts and waders and that are just, $5, and they'll take them in and get a brand new exchange. So I think I read somewhere today that, I think they lost like $250 million from this policy over the 100 and some years they've been open. So, just getting taken advantage of, and it was never meant to be a buy once for a lifetime thing, but more of a, if there's a manufacturer's defect, you can get it exchanged, and that's not the case. If you wear boots for 15, 20 years, that's on you, and that's not what these people were doing. So,
yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I really don't have a problem with what they're doing. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, this is no different than everything else in our society today. If there's a way that people can take advantage of stuff, they're doing it. And that's not fair to the company who, by all accounts is trying to do the right thing and stand behind their products. But, you got to take a look at what is a reasonable life expectancy for the product, right? I mean, if you buy a pair of boots and they tear open in 3 months, that's probably not an acceptable lifespan. But if you wear a pair of boots, day in and day out for like 5 years, I think you probably got your money's worth, right? And, if people are going to abuse that, what do you want them to do? Continue to just lose money? So unfortunately, this is why we can't have nice things. People just ruin it for everyone else that really, wants to buy waders that they can be, not afraid that if they leak, they're not going to get, stuck with them. So.
Yeah. So now for people that are wondering, it's a 12-month policy. Manufacturer defect, you can return it with the proof of purchase. So you need a receipt to exchange it. And, that's going to save them a lot of money. And it sounds like that they have a few other things up their sleeve as far as expanding a few lines. And I think this policy was holding them back a little bit. So anyway, that is what's going on in Freeport, Maine this morning.
Yep. I can't say that I don't personally hold it against them. I'm sure some people will, and that's fine too. But, I think at the end of the day, what do you expect them to do, right?
And the one article I read, some lady was trying to take I think the article I sent you, the one said that this family bought 2 canoes and paddles, life jackets, everything, brought them back after a week because that was the end of their vacation, and said that they didn't live up to what they wanted, and they got a full refund. So, naturally. I mean, essentially, it's just taking advantage of it. Same thing with jackets. People would wear jackets, and the one had four years worth of lift tickets for skiing on it. And they said, the guy's like, well, obviously, like, your kid just outgrew this jacket, and now you're bringing it back. But, when you're that's a little ridiculous.
Agreed. So that's a bummer, but anyway, moving on. Another little nugget that came out today was Remington is looking for financing to file for bankruptcy. And, I don't know if a lot of people are going to be shocked by this. I'm sure some will be, but I don't know. I'm not trying to start up a, crap storm here with people, but I mean, in my personal opinion, and I think there are others that agree with me, the Remington name does not mean what it once did. I don't think I'm breaking any news by saying that. And, I kind of think that in the outdoor industry and in guns and stuff like that, where people buy guns and they expect to be able to hand them down to their their son, their grandchildren, or whatever, you do damage to your name. It's really, really hard to repair that. And when Remington was bought out a couple years ago and their quality kind of suffered, I'm not sure that they might have wrote their death ticket right there. Yeah, that might have just been enough.
And it says they've been working with an investment bank. They're trying to restructure $950 million debt pile. So they got a little, they need a bigger shovel, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're kind of behind the 8 ball at this point, obviously, and I'm sure someone will bail them out and take over and stuff. But, you got to wonder, some of these companies, they just... Sometimes it almost feels like they kind of lose their connection with the outdoors, and they get, people that aren't as plugged in make decisions based on certain things.
Yep.
When, there are things that they're overlooking that matter to their base, and you can't survive and ignore them.
Yeah. Yeah, I read a few comments where people were saying that the guys calling the shots were in downtown New York City, and that's just, you don't give the people what they want when you're confined to that area. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, again, this is another example of, there are a lot of great companies out there, and we talked about this. I guess I'm trying to keep my frame of reference here. I guess it'll be 2 podcasts ago now. We talked about it. One company innovates, or one company gets out in front and starts pushing the envelope. The other's got to come on too, or they're going to get left behind. And I just think that Remington might have got left behind a little bit, unfortunately.
Yep.
For them. So, any other news you got that you want to cover, or are we ready to get into some Q&A here?
What'd you say? Today's the 9th, so we still have a couple weeks of goose season here, and I need to get out. We aren't seeing the birds in our available spots that we usually do, so I think it was like 20 degrees at lunch today, and before I played with the kids outside a little bit before dark, and it was like 37, so it's heating up a little bit. Maybe I'll take the snow off and get some birds flying back up through here. But yeah, I need to get on another hunt or 2 before the season's out, because just didn't do enough this year.
Yeah, my season's pretty much done. I hunted last weekend and didn't do great. I mean, it feels like I'm just a day behind every time I hunt. The day before, the birds are locked in there for whatever reason. The next day I'm there and they're not. So, that part is getting frustrating. So, but because of work and coaching and other factors, I'm not going to get out for the last weekend of the season. So mine's pretty much done. So I'm going to officially switch gears a little bit more, and probably not going to start thinking turkey hunting quite yet, but I'm going to start looking at, shooting some archery and getting that going. So hopefully I'll be able to squeeze a few local tournaments in here to see if I can try my hand at that.
I'm trying to look. So let's see here. This episode will be coming out the 19th, and I was just gonna let everyone listening know that if you do join our listeners group, we're gonna have a live feed from one of the better photographers in the game right now. Ted Wells is going to be in our group and do a live Q&A and kind of help guys that are looking to get into photography and post-processing questions, stuff like that. So we appreciate him taking the time to do that. He said the end of the month, so hopefully it's after the 19th when this releases. I might have to let him know that, but if you are not in our listeners group, take a look. If you're interested in photography, get added in there, and that'll be something worth watching.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I think a lot of people, I mean, if you follow waterfowl hunting companies and related companies on Instagram and places like that, you've probably seen his work and you may not have realized it, but a lot of his stuff is out there. So that'll be cool. Definitely looking forward to that for sure. Been getting a lot of questions about cameras lately in the group. I don't know if this is on your list, Dan, but why don't we start with that since you brought it up? I didn't look at all these that well, but a question we get a lot, I think particularly maybe this time of year for a multitude of reasons. One, season's wrapping up, so you're kind of like reflecting on how the season was and maybe what you would have changed or what you would have done differently, but you're also got your tax return coming up, that kind of stuff. So you may have a little more money in your pocket now that you're not spending it all on hunting stuff every day. So a question you see come up a lot is, what's a good entry level camera? Guys wanting to get into it, don't want to break the bank, So, what, in your opinion, what's a good camera to sort of get a guy started? And, what are some of the things that you're going to kind of look for, in that camera?
Oh, geez. You caught me off a little bit, but I would say I'm not well versed in the Sony or the mirrorless, so you might be able to talk to that and I don't keep up with Nikon too much, except the D5, which is what Ted shoots, and it's
Not
way
entry level.
way out of my price range. But yeah, I don't know much about Nikon. I would say for Canon, and this is I don't know. I haven't checked the cost on them in a while, but their 80D seems to be one of the not just a good entry level camera. And then I think depending as far as lens goes, it depends what you want. You have some people that want to do landscape and stuff in the blind, so you want to get a fisheye or something in the 20 to 70 range, and then there's some people that want to shoot the birds out on the water, so you're looking at the 125 to 300 range. So not too great info out of me right there, but
yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to go right now.
There really is. You're right. The 80D is a great camera, and that would serve a lot of people really well. But I would even argue if you're really looking to stay on a tighter budget and you just want to sort of get into the game, and let's say for whatever reason you want to go with a Canon, I think that you would be in a great position to look for a used Canon 70D, even a Canon 60D. Both of us, you and myself both.
That's what we
kind of cut our teeth on the 60D, and we can both speak to it. Great photography camera, flip out screen, 1080 video capabilities. It's not going to have 1080 at 120 frames or whatever, like some of these new cameras, but it's going to get you 30 frames at 100 at 1080. Shoot your raw images. That's probably like what I don't know, 12 or 16 megapixel, maybe 18 megapixel camera. Plenty for what you need. So don't be afraid to look at used gear. I mean, there are really good options out there, both Canon and Nikon for sure. One thing I do want to hit on before I'm going to talk a little bit about Sony, because I do think that's the way I would go if I was getting started again. But one thing you guys got to keep in mind, like if your goal is to say like, oh, I want to take pictures of my kid when we're in our boat, hunting, and I hunt out of a 16-foot boat or whatever, and, you start looking at your millimeters of your lenses, keep in mind, if you're new to photography and you're shooting a camera like a 70D or a 60D or an 80D, something that's not a full frame. So when you look at the specs, it'll say it's an APS-C sensor. That's the size of the sensor. The lenses are made for what is considered a full frame. So if you put it on like you shoot the Canon 6D, if you put a 70 to 200 millimeter lens on there, you are in fact getting 70 to 200 millimeters. With an APS-C sensor, because it's smaller, it's going to have a perceived magnification of like 1.5 or 1.6 times what's on the lens. Why that's important is because if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to buy this nifty 50 millimeter lens and put it on my Canon 60D, and you get that set up for like $400, you have what's in reality more of like an 85 millimeter perceived focal distance, essentially, or distance on the lens. So my point here is, you have to think about that kind of stuff when you're buying your lens. So my recommendation is to get one with the biggest focal range you can. I had a Sigma like 18 to 250 or something crazy for my Canon. And it wasn't a top of the line piece of glass, but it was more than sufficient for me to get started, and it covered every focal distance that I need. So those super telephoto ones aren't a bad option. For me personally, I've moved over to the mirrorless world because, one, the form factor for me is just much better. I was finding that I would leave my camera at home simply because it was too much of a pain in the neck to carry it around because it was too big. The second thing that I really like about a mirrorless camera is they've got an electronic viewfinder. So, and again, I'm trying not to nerd this up too much, but basically, in a nutshell, an electronic viewfinder, when you look at it into the camera, you're actually seeing the picture that the camera is going to take with the exposure already factored in and everything. You're basically watching a TV screen of what the picture is going to look like. So when you hit the shutter button, what you see is what you get. With a DSLR style camera, it's got an optical viewfinder. So basically you're seeing what the lens sees, not what the camera is interpreting. So basically you look through and it just looks like, you're looking through the glass, right? So you're guessing, not guessing. You're counting on other things to be able to tell you if you're getting proper exposure. You're looking at your light meters, you're looking at your histograms, all of that kind of stuff that isn't a big deal maybe for a more advanced user, but for someone that's getting started, when you look through through that monitor and you can see, okay, this is how my picture is going to look. It looks a little dark. And then you just hit like one dial. Maybe you work on the exposure compensation, right? And you just bump that up 1 or 2 stops and you see your picture gets lighter and you like that. That to me helps shorten the learning curve. Again, both cameras will do the same thing if you take the time to learn how to do it, right? I'm just saying, in my opinion, a mirrorless option can help you with that. A DSLR camera, some of them will do the same thing in live view, but there are some trade-offs and stuff when you're doing that. But anyway, the Sony a6000, I think, is a solid option to start, but that's going to be more expensive than if you decide to go with like a used Canon or Nikon, APS-C sensor body. So,
yeah, and going back to what you said about the crop sensor at the beginning, if you have a 50 and you're trying to get your kid in the full frame at the front of your boat, that really being 80 or 85, whatever it may be, you might only get the top half of them or something like that. On the other side of that, flip it around, some of these guys that are taking just amazing shots are buying a 150 to 600 lens, which those run around $1,000 depending what you're into. But the lower end is around $1,000. But that essentially gets you a 960.
Yeah, I mean, depending
millimeter
on the crop factor, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're at 600, 1.6 times, somewhere around 960, so you're gaining an extra 350 or so compared to a full frame camera. So that's if you're trying to go long.
The thing is, I'm nerding this up and I apologize, but it's not true magnification. It's perceived. So when you compare the two, a full frame versus an APS-C sensor, at that focal distance, it will look like it's more magnified, but your field of view is less. So if you're trying to take hero pictures, for example, and you got like 6 guys in your group, a full frame at 50 millimeters will cover a lot more than an APS-C sensor at 50 meters or at 50 millimeters, if that makes sense. Right. So although it looks like it's punched in because of the crop, your side to side, what you can get horizontally across the frame will be less. So it's perceived magnification. It's not true magnification, if that makes sense. I don't know. Let's move on. People are probably already punching their radio in the face and turning it off. Okay. All right. I can't find your email. So what was the next one?
A video I saw today, super annoying. But I think the guy was joking around, but it brought up a good point. One, how do you settle a band debate? So if a group of you shoot a band, how do you settle who gets it if no one's going to fess up to it? 2, do you think that a guide should keep all the bands that are shot out of his outfit, even if he isn't holding a gun, or if he is?
You want me to answer that first?
Yeah, with the initial thought that the guy says, if you don't like that I take the band off there, then, I spent thousands on the lease. I spent thousands on decoys, all this time and effort putting it into it. On the other hand, if you don't have the clients, then you're not going to have the money to pay for all that stuff. So what do you think?
I personally, if you are a guide and you take every band, you will never get me in your blind, ever. I think that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Ever. I mean, in all seriousness, a band is a trophy. That person is paying for your services to have an opportunity to harvest birds. It's it's laughable to me to think you don't have a gun. I mean, I've heard people say, people talk about, oh, this is my property. If we kill a band, it's, I'm keeping it. I don't care. It's my property. Personally, I don't want a band that I didn't kill, or at least had a reasonable opportunity to kill. For example, if I'm in a blind with 4 guys and a flock of birds come in and a bird falls all the way over to the right and I'm on the left side of the blind, I'm not going to claim that I killed that bird on the far right side. It further takes me off because you talk about all the time, right? Like, okay, if these birds come in, shoot your lane, right? So we're not all shooting the same birds. So in theory, birds that are dropping like on the left side of the blind are probably between you and like the guy right next to you. If the other guy on the far right hand side of the blind is trying to claim he shot it, I'm like, no, you didn't. Like, you did not kill that bird, right? If you're a guide and don't have a gun in your hand, forget it. I mean, to me, that is crazy.
Okay, so what if he does have a gun in his hand?
Did he pull the trigger?
Yeah.
Okay. I would expect the guide as having clients with him. One, first of all, I don't want to know why he's pulling the trigger. But anyway, a different story. I would expect him to give it to the clients. I just would.
I couldn't imagine, like, when we were down at the Eastern Shore with Casey down there and, like, Trav's dad dropping that last canvas back, like a group of 30 birds, he drops a canvas back. And can you imagine him bringing it in and be like, oh, that's my band, if it was banded?
I'm just telling you now, like,
I probably would have left. I probably would have walked out. I definitely
would. I mean, I wouldn't. And I mean, if you're a guide listening to this right now, it's your business. It's your prerogative. I mean, don't take it personal. This is my opinion. Just like, you have your opinion about it. Like, this is mine. I would never hunt with you. Flat out. Yep. Wouldn't. I just think that's insane. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. It just seems to me like something that, is it because the guide wants to put it on his lanyard so he can take pictures on Instagram?
Probably.
I mean, how's that any different than buying it? Just buy them off eBay. I mean, it's the same thing.
So again, the video, he said that he makes extra money by selling them on eBay. So,
bull.
But I assume that this was all a joke. I'm sure we're going to hear about it. So,
I don't even know what video you're talking about. So
it was out this morning on Facebook, but
yeah, I didn't see it. I don't know. I think people get spun up about bands way too, it's like, it's crazy. But I mean, if you have there's never been every time you kill a band, everybody says they shot it, right? I mean, so right. Rarely does it ever happen where someone's like, yeah, that was it's so rare that happens. But, if you're hunting with a guide and that guide just is claiming all the bands, he can say, I pay all the money for these leases and all this kind of stuff. Where does that money come from?
Right. Exactly.
Right? I mean, it's not like it's your own private hunting club. It's you lease them because clients come. So the clients are the ones that, help you absorb that cost. And obviously they're absorbing all the costs for you or you wouldn't be doing it. I mean, you're not going to take guys for free, right? I mean,
right. All right. We're half an hour in here and haven't got to a listener's question yet.
That wasn't a listener question?
No, that was my personal question.
I thought there was something about bands in that email you sent me.
Yep, that was it.
All right. Well, let's be quicker with our answers and stop being so long-winded.
All right. Ben Page,
what's up, Ben?
What do your decoy / hunting storage areas look like? Just moved to a new house and building out the garage storage / workbench tomorrow, trying to design something now. I'm going to further that more that people were talking about storing their decoys in the attic of a garage, and people were asking, does that affect the decoys, all that heat in the summertime?
I've done it. Didn't do a dang thing to mine.
Yep.
I don't think that matters at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And
unless you live in like Qatar, however that's pronounced, some place it's like 150 degrees in the shade all the time. I don't see it being an issue.
Right. No, I have most of my duck decoys are downstairs in the garage. Goose decoys are upstairs in my garage. Super hot. I haven't noticed anything with paint and those are a lot of refurbished decoys. My goose ones are floaters. But yeah, I haven't noticed any issues as far as heat. Definitely not cold because they're out there in the chilled now. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
Yep.
Wouldn't worry about it at all.
I mean, my biggest thing is I store all my stuff in my garage for the most part. I don't put them up in the attic anymore because it's just more of a pain in the butt than anything. So
Right.
I try to get as much as I can off the floor. Hooks, gang rigs hanging from hooks, decoy bags hanging from hooks, whatever I can do. Stack them on top of each other, mash it back in the corner, and then call it good. Dig them out in the fall.
There you go. All right, we'll go to the next one. Jacob Britton. So, what is that one bucket list bird that if money was not a consideration, you would travel to harvest? I'd love to go to Alaska and hunt harlequins. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, hunting harlequins would be definitely up there. And I think it's probably more than just the bird itself. It's the, kind of like that whole journey to get there and kind of,
right.
That experience would be awesome. So it's definitely up there, but it's kind of weird for me. Like I don't put any particular, I mean, I shouldn't say that I don't put them up on a pedestal because I do a little bit, but like the gap isn't that big. Like to me, like canvasback is that bird and I've killed them but I love them, right? I mean, I love the way they work, love the way they look, I love the way they taste. There's just nothing that I don't love about it. And, there's probably a handful of ducks that I feel similarly about. So that's not really a bucket list, but I hold those birds in the highest regard. But yeah, I mean, if I could go hunt harlequins for free, I'd do it for sure.
Yep. Or if money wasn't an issue. That's what I said. I'd join on that hunt because then you're looking at king eiders too. Almost like To Kill a King that Vandemore did. Like that just, I mean, it scares you half to death, but also is just awesome experience. So, Brady Davis came in with the paradise duck in New Zealand, which from Basham's trip out there with McCormick behind the lens, that place looked freaking amazing as well. So, there's just so many places and birds. But yeah, that Eastern Shore with those thousands and thousands of cans flying over, that was just magnificent. There's not much more that you could ask for there.
Yep, not if you ask me.
All right. Good. That was 2 questions in 5 minutes. So we're doing good. All right.
Rolling.
Alex Wright, quick question for everyone. Has anyone ever mixed light and dark goose decoys together for a Canada spread, or at least specs and Canadas?
I mean, I'm not the best to answer this question because we don't see a lot of other varieties right here. I will say I've killed a few snows over a full Canada spread. I've never killed Canadas with snows in my spread. That doesn't mean you can't do it. I'm sure you can do it, in fact. But I guess I would just say, look at where you're hunting and look at, what your scouting tell you. If you ever see them mixed in the fields together, you're probably good to do it. If you never see them mixed in the fields together, you still might be okay to do it. I don't know. Try it.
So here's my response to that. In the same, I'm not a huge snow goose hunter, and I have 0 snow decoys. But a lot of the people that I follow on Instagram and social media, a lot of their spreads may be all Canadas, but they have 1 or 2 snow geese mixed in. And up here in PA, where we're at, Northwest Pennsylvania, we don't get too many snows until, I don't know, end of March, April. Like we might have a few thousand come into a lake and then they're out the next day, so we don't really get a chance to hunt them. But the snows that I have seen have been with Canada's, and there's only one or two, maybe three in a big flock. Specs in Canada's, same thing. Seen a lot of, this is other people writing, seen a lot of specs shot with Canada's, so kind of mix. If you want to try it out, you might start a new trend.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're in an area where you're legitimately targeting multiple species of goose, then yeah, you can probably do it. But like for me, we don't see snows or specs here where I hunt. So it doesn't make sense for me to put those out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I would just say match what your conditions are telling you. And,
and even if you're seeing blues, if you have Canada's, you probably mix them in and get away with it. I'm sure that, well, I guess I'm not sure because I'm not a snow goose expert and I don't know how they react to that. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
We need to get into some snow goose hunting.
For sure.
All right, let's go to the next one. How many calls do you carry on your lanyard?
I liked this question. I thought this was interesting. The results of this were surprising to me.
Yep. Yeah, when I copied it, there were, let's see here, 56 members had 4 calls, 30 had 3, 14 had 2, 13 people had 5, and 5 people had 6 calls. So 56.
Where do you fall on that list?
I fall in with 3 if you count the whistle.
So you're 4. So you're a goose call, a duck call, and a whistle.
Yep. And then I whatever we're targeting for the day, I have an extra call in my bag.
Yeah. Most of this season, I ran 2 calls, one duck, one goose. Last hunt of the year, I added 1 more goose. But, my issues with lanyards are well documented. And part of that is the fact that too many calls just get kind of clustered together for me. And when I have to try to untangle crap to get to it, when I'm trying to work birds, it's incredibly frustrating for me. So yeah, 3 is an absolute max number for me. Couldn't do any more than that.
Yep.
For sure.
So what goose calls do you have? What are you running?
I'm running an HP heavyweight and I'm running a zinc naughty by nature. Wood maple.
I love that zinc call.
Mm-hmm.
She's pretty little thing.
It is. I've been wrestling for quite some time about getting a COD or a Nightmare on Stage or something, but I just keep coming back to that call because it's just so versatile and it will get all of the range that I need, and the tone of wood calls, I just love it. I mean, it's just, I really struggle to find, even sometimes with acrylic calls, calls that don't have that plasticky sound and that just thin plasticky sound. And for whatever reason, my wood calls just seem to resonate really well. And, again, you'll get people that'll tell you, oh, if it's tuned high, that's what kills geese. And if it's tuned low, that's, just cause hunters like it or whatever. From my experience, I like the way it sounds and it kills geese. So I really can't ask for anything else. And I don't need anything else, but I like to buy gear. So, eventually I'll probably get something else too.
There's been a few hunts I've been on where I'm running the heavyweight and just that there's a good crack on it. Just, if you want that good acrylic crack, it has it. And, sometimes when we're just surrounded, in a smaller field and surrounded by trees, it's too much. And I'm always like, man, I wish I had a call like Palm has, but that wood, I think, just tones it down a little bit and is more relaxing sounding. So,
oh yeah, I mean, we hunt a lot of ponds, right? That are that's got a lot of trees around them. And I mean, if you cut loose on that, it echoes so much, and it's like you just almost blast the geese out of that hole.
Right.
So that mellow tone on the wood is really, really helpful. And, but then also there's times when I'm hunting the open river where I need to reach out, and that's where that short that shorter call will really, it'll get fast and loud and it'll get real high pitched, which is good. So it's a real versatile call. I mean, obviously I'm not breaking news here. Zinc has popular calls and some people hate them. Some people love them. They just fit my style, I guess, whatever.
Yeah. It's very nice. All right, going on to the next one. That was Zach Graves, so thanks, Zach, for that one. Matthew Young. I have a problem with my taxidermist. I don't know. Did you get to read this one?
No, but just give the cliff notes here.
I have a problem with my taxidermist and was looking for some opinions. He's been dodging my phone calls, and when he does pick up, he makes an excuse that says he will call the next day and never does. He quoted me at 5 months to do a mallard. It's now been over a year. When I called him last, he said it'd be ready and he will deliver. He picks up birds and drops them off. He doesn't let people come pick them up. Long story short, I'm getting fed up, and I want to get my bird. Is it wrong for me to ask for a discounted price since he took over twice as long to finish it and is dodging me left and right?
So I don't know about a discount. My experience with taxidermists is I usually get quoted 6 months and I usually get the bird in about a year.
Yep.
That's been my experience. I just sort of have that expectation set for myself. So you don't know. I do find it weird that you can't pick it up. That's an interesting twist, but the bottom line is if he does a quality job on the mount, when you get it back, that's really what you're paying him to do. So in my opinion, it wouldn't be discount worthy. Frustrating. Heck yeah. Maybe worth not taking your business back to him. Maybe, but you're paying him for a quality mount. And if he does deliver that, I still think at the end of the day, that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, I think I'm a little different. One, I don't ask for time frame, like how long it'll take, because I understand like different seasons have different, slow times and whatnot. So, I wouldn't ask, but then I think if I made the attempt to call and ask when it would be done and the guy kept dodging me, and on top of that, like there's no studio to go see his work and or go pick him up or go talk to him, I think that's enough for me. Once I get that bird, I'll pay the price, but then I'm not going to go back there. If he can't tell me an honest, yeah, I'll have it done in another 3 months, well, that's fine. It's still going to get my bird, but if he says a month and then you keep calling him and he keeps pushing it, and then just dodging you left and right, then I think you had one shot to do it. And if you I just wouldn't trust him. I guess I don't trust a lot of people, but I wouldn't trust him, and that'd be the end of using him.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some, again, I don't know. This guy might be the best taxidermist in the area and this is how he operates, whatever. But from my experience, if someone said that to me, that would give me reason for pause. Like, why you don't have a studio where I can come or whatever. Having said that, there's probably something to be said for taxidermists that if they actually can deliver in 5 months, unless there's like an occasion where it's like a gift or, there's something going on where it needs to be rushed. I don't think most good quality taxidermists have the bandwidth to turn around birds in 5 months. At least a lot of them none of the good ones that I know can do it. That doesn't mean that there's not good ones out there that can do it. These are sweeping generalizations, obviously, so nobody get upset. But the good ones that I know of, they can't usually make that timeline unless you really pressure them because you need it for your kid's birthday and it was his first duck or something like that. So I'm kind of like you. I send the bird off. I don't have any expectation of getting it back anytime soon. And usually I forget about it before I actually get it back.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I got my Eider right now is up at Schloss, and I didn't even ask him how long it's going to take, but I know a lot of people said, just if you don't mind waiting, take it to him. But he gets a lot of work and he does some of the best work that I've seen. So, if I have it back by a 2019 waterfowl season, I'd be happy. So
Yeah. I think in general, though, if people aren't returning your call, that's just bad business, period. So you got to weigh do the means justify, do the ends justify the means, right? If you get a bird back and it's beautiful, maybe it's worth it dealing with that kind of stuff. If you get back and it looks like crap, probably not worth it.
Yep.
All right. What's next?
All right. Let me mark that one off. From Tegan, what paint do you use for touching up decoys? Satin, acrylic. A lot of people use acrylic, an oil-based acrylic. I have used the Parker Coatings decoy paint from Cabela's, and I actually looked at their stuff today, and it doesn't say what it is. So, well, online anyways. I could go out to my garage and look, but I didn't. But I would say anything you use, end it with some kind of a flat cover, and you should be good to go. But the Parker paints are I think pretty streamlined. A lot of people use them for boats or decoys or whatever you want to do. So
yeah, I actually don't have any experience painting decoys. The ones that I've beat the crap out of. Some of them are probably due for a repainting. I'm just too lazy, and I don't think divers care enough. So I haven't worried about them too much. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'd use. I'd have to research it probably some. But you did you did some painting on some honkers that turned out really good. So
I did.
Whatever you used, I'd probably do that.
That was all rattle can. So that was just a flat Rust-Oleum. I think a brown, a black, and white. You mix them a little bit, and it turns out real nice. Let me see here. Next one. All right, so a SHOT Show just came out, and I'm hesitant to throw this one out there, but $300 Yeti chair. What do you think about it?
Oh, this thread, I swear to everything. I almost muted our own group. Like, as an admin, I almost muted it just so I didn't have to see it. This crap gets beat up to the nth degree, and we're not going to do it here, obviously. I will say this. This is America. You spend your money however you want to spend it. If you want to buy a $300 Yeti chair, awesome. If you want to buy a $5 Walmart chair, awesome. I don't care, right? It blows my mind how much time people spend getting wrapped around the axle about what other people do. Like, if you don't want to buy it, cool. But why do you even waste the time to comment about other people who do? You know, you get the same thing with Yeti, with the Sitka gear. I don't get it. Like, there's just got to be better things to do with your time than worry about what other people are doing when it has literally zero impact on you. Zero. And that's where I'm at with it. I mean, I'm sure that chair is robust. I'm sure it's super comfortable. Probably last you a lifetime. You could beat the crap out of it. That's awesome. Will I spend $300 on it? Probably not. I've been sitting on the same stupid stool that I've had for like 7 years. As long as that thing stands upright and I can hold my fat butt on it, that's probably what I'll sit on until it breaks, you know? But again, I don't hate anybody that has one. I'd probably love to have one myself, but I'm saving up for Sitka waders, so I can't buy a chair too.
Are you saving up for them? You going marsh or timber?
Well, again, I have OCD, so I don't own any timber, so it would have to match my other crap. So I'd have to go with the marsh.
Yeah. Timber looks so sweet, though.
I don't hunt timber ever.
Me neither.
Literally have never done it, so I wouldn't get. I don't need it.
All right, that was enough about the Yeti.
You didn't even weigh in on that. You just made me soapbox.
Yeah, I think that was enough.
Great.
No
wonder everyone in the group hates me. They love you. I'm like the freaking evil empire over here, and you're like running around like Han Solo with your shirt off, doing selfies all over the group. I don't get it.
No, well, I spent like 4 straight days adminning that entire thread and threatening to ban people. So
I want to make a point clear. Everyone calls you the fun uncle, and I'm the like whatever
Dad.
the dad. For the record, I have never, not even once, banned someone from the HP group yet. I've threatened. I said I'll pull this car over right now, but I've never actually done it. You, on the other hand, it's like Matumbo in the paint, just block party.
Hey,
Just so
we're keeping it
everybody
clean.
knows.
We're keeping a nice place here. We're keeping it. You know, I've been watching a lot of Walking Dead lately, and when Negan comes in, he's, you know, what do you have if you don't have rolls? You have nothing. And we have rolls, and it's don't be an a-hole, pretty much. So that's where we're at.
It's pretty straightforward, but yet some people struggle with the concept, so they have to get dealt with. It's all good though. For the most part, we got very, very few issues in there.
Yeah, it's a great place. All right. Adam Snyder. He is a PA boy, doesn't use waders more, maybe 3 times a year, needs a new pair, and wants to know if breathables are really worth it.
Is he asking for a recommendation of a particular kind of breathable, or just
Nope.
are they worth it?
Nope.
Yes.
Are they really that good?
Yes.
Didn't I talk about this last episode?
I don't remember.
Or two ago.
It's possible.
Yeah. So this was a pretty good thread, because a lot of people said, you know, I wear breathables down to about 20 degrees, and then I wear my neoprenes. And I think that is like the worst thing that you could do. I said, there's no way that you could pay me to wear neoprenes, especially in cold weather, like under 20 degrees. No way. And that showed up when we were in Maine. There's one guy in Vandekamp was in neoprenes, and his waders froze to where he couldn't barely get up over the rocks when the birds were coming. So, I mean, it was night and day. And if you know, it's all about the layers. If you layer properly, you can get, it was negative 13 that day getting out of the truck, and it was, you know, negative 40, negative 50 wind chill, and there was no one complaining. And I have Sims. The other guys all had LL Beans, which hopefully they don't break after next January.
Yeah, they're all going to start returning them with like 11 months wear on them.
But anyway,
so here's what I find interesting about that point when it comes to breathables. Everyone wants to know how low of temperatures you can wear them to. No one wants to talk about the fact that you're not wearing 5 mil neoprene with like 1,600 gram Thinsulate boots when it's like 75 degrees out and you're teal hunting. Right. I mean, that right there is worth it. To wear mesh shorts under your waders is so much better when you're not sweating your tail off on those unseasonably warm. And like our goose season here starts in September. It's freaking 85 degrees in September here. And I'm hunting ponds and I'm in waders. And if I was wearing neoprenes, it would be miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, I still have my Drake neoprenes in there, and I just, every time I look at them, I feel like a snot. I'm just like, I don't like you at all. Like,
well, it could be because they have a massive hole in the crotch as well.
No, I don't think so. Those ones, I thought that there was one kind of in the knee area, but I wore them again, not since I bought the breathables, but I wore them again, and there was no leak in it. But that's a different one than the crotch ones. The crotch ones were,
that's a completely different pair.
Yeah, the crotch ones were done. There's no bringing them back. I tried.
Right.
But yeah, so.
And like we did say, there are a lot more options on the market now for breathable waders, and there's more coming every year.
There's a reason.
Yeah, I mean there's a I mean people have been wearing neoprene forever, right? And technology's changing. Times are changing. If you want to, you can certainly hold on forever, but like the question no longer is, are they worth it? Like, I think that ship has sailed. Every manufacturer out there is making them, right? I mean, if it wasn't worth it, they would focus on the neoprene market and double down on that, but they're not doing that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're looking at neoprene versus breathables, look at even the LL Bean, even though it's a year warranty, you're talking $300. That's what you're going to pay for neoprenes, or somewhere around there, depending, that's an average entry there. $300. And that's a great waiter. How much, do you know how much Gator waiters are? Like $249 maybe? $199, $249?
Yeah, no clue.
So maybe check those out too. Some guys have had really good experiences with them. There's one guy in the group that had 2 pair fail on him, but they replaced them. So it was just a little bit of downtime when getting those back. So you have options, but friends don't let friends buy neoprene anymore. It's just the way it is.
That's going to upset some people that you said that.
I know. But it's true. It's getting there. It's getting to that point. All right, so let's go to the next one.
Okay.
We're about an hour deep here. This isn't too bad.
Well, I had like the 10-minute, no, it was like 2 minutes where I had to run up and see what my kid was yelling about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're about an hour.
All right, so Ryan Lockhart, you guys had mentioned the next podcast would be a listener's Q&A. This is when he was thinking his Christmas list one. So here's mine. Any advice on hunting a cornfield? The stubble had been mowed and baled. One fence line is a border with a subdivision, and the birds tend to work the open part of the field. So this is like cut short, not much around. What do you want to do there?
So if you can work that tree line, I mean, that's going to be beneficial to you. But
now, when he says that, I'm assuming that fence line is within a safety zone. Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes, I don't know. You can try to get, if you're allowed to dig down in the field and kind of do all that stuff to get your profile lower. I kind of tend to lean go one extreme or the other, right? I mean, dig in, get low profile, like really spend a lot of time to get as low as you possibly can, use a depression in the field, whatever you can find to your advantage, or go the complete opposite and A-frame it up, get it out there where they want to be, but you have to go like over the top to brush it in, because it's going to be the biggest thing out there, right? But if you really brush it in, I'm shocked sometimes at how well birds work into just a clump of standing crap out in the field when there's nothing else standing there. And, if you cover it up where when they circle, they can't see you down in there, all that kind of stuff, you'd be shocked. They'll work it. If you got you got the decoys there to pull them in, it can work.
Yeah. I think the A-frame has proven itself the last couple of years, and especially in really, really shortcut stuff. If that was me, I think my initial approach, like you said, I would try and find a depression semi near where they want to be or where they have been. And then I'd have a rake with me. There's going to be some leftover stuff. Try and build up the sides of your blinds, even with some dirt, and then get some of the leftover, cut corn and blend that up into the sides of your blind. And then obviously brush to the top of it, and you should be able to take any shadows away to where that should work as well.
Yeah, if you want to go layout, a couple things, we may have talked about this before, but a couple things you can do to help brush it in. Get a couple silhouette decoys and actually run them on the sides of the blind, the layout blind in the stubble straps, so they actually are like right on the blind and help break that profile, because they have to sit up a little higher, right? You don't want them to like sit like they're down in a hole next to your blind. So they got to kind of prop up a little bit. Another thing that's probably worth trying is if you find yourself in a position where you're hunting fields like this regularly, like if this is one of your main spots that you're hunting year in and year out, and it's always cut down real tight, you know, you've seen it where guys have success buying those oversized shells that they can literally lay under, and you just lay in the spread under like a big Canada shell and use it as like a flip up blind. Right. And they work really well. I mean, it's like snow goose hunters just laying the spread, you know. You can essentially try to do the same thing.
Yeah, I think, and you'd probably have to have some numbers in your spread. If you have like a dozen decoys, it's probably not going to work. But
yeah, for sure,
try it out. All right, so we're looking at our last one, and you know, some of these guys that send in questions, they've hunted a while. Some of my favorite questions are from guys that, you know, this is my very first season. Thank you for doing the podcast. And, you know, it's just super cool to see these guys are out and about and getting it done, but want to tweak their setups a little bit. So, Zach Green out of Michigan, talking about
what
goose
up,
hunting. All right.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. All right.
Did you have a Michigan starter jacket as a kid?
I did. I was talking about this with the
worst.
Well, again, like my brother was a Raiders fan, so I was a San Francisco fan. And then when it came to college, he was a Penn State fan, so I had to go opposite of him because he got first choice. And I was a Michigan fan, so we actually sat up in the booth at Beaver Stadium when I was like 7 or 8. We ended up going a couple times, and we were up in the booth. And I wore my Michigan starter jacket, and they took everyone's jacket except mine. And I'm like a 7-year-old kid. Like, they showed no mercy. So
that's right.
I'm sitting there watching Tom Brady, Tim Biaki-Baktuka, and like, dude, just freaking
throwback.
It is a throwback if you ever heard one. But you know, every time Michigan would score, I'd jump up and cheer, and everyone would glare at me. I'm like 7 or 8. I don't know any better. And then every time the Penn State would score, you know, I'd be sitting there, and everyone would be like pointing, you know, right in my face. So anyway, I don't even, where'd that go?
There is not a single person listening to this show that when they turned this on thought that they would hear Tim Biaki-Baktuka be referenced. Unbelievable.
He was a machine back in the day.
Oh, I can't take it. All right. What are we talking about here?
All right. So he is, let me see here. All right. I have 6 full body. He is a newbie. He says Canadian floaters or Canadian geese and 12 mallard floaters. I'll be on a river that is 2 to 3 feet deep. I have seen geese there before, and where I've gotten my ducks. Question is, will the geese come into the spread of only 6 decoys? So he has 6 Canada floaters. He's seen birds there before, killed ducks there. Is 6 enough?
So my answer to this is, if you're where the birds want to be, you don't need any decoys. Right? I mean, if that's where they want to be, they'll come in there to 0 decoys and you'll kill them. So yeah, you can kill them with 6. If you're trying to pull traffic with 6, depending on the size of the water and stuff like that, might be tough. But again, if birds do go there on their own, you might be all right. I mean, I don't know. And there can be a situation when you have too many decoys, you know, depending on the size of the flocks that are hitting that spot and how big the water is and all of those factors. You may not want 6 dozen in there, you know? I mean, I don't know. But I don't think that you're completely out of the game if you only put 6 out. I mean, You'll hear people, I've heard people talk about, this is a little bit different, but I've heard people talking about killing diver ducks over like a string of like 4 to 6 divers. They put 1 string out and just pound them.
Are you talking about me?
No. To my knowledge, you've never hunted divers, but
whatever, dude. I'm about to post some pics up here.
You shot some buffleheads over some mallards one time. That's not hunting divers. Okay.
Dude, last year I'd killed divers. Come on, golden eyes, ringnecks. Come on.
Not plural, singular. A golden eye, a ringneck.
2 golden eyes, 1 ringneck. We didn't have the migrators last year. We didn't have them. Not where I hunt.
Yeah, they probably all stayed up at Prescott.
Yeah, I do need to get up there. Or buy a boat. I need to get a boat.
Yeah. Prestige Worldwide. Get on a boat.
So anyway, I told Zach, take those 6 out there, kill your geese, leave the ducks at home. If you were targeting ducks there, I would take the goose decoys as confidence, but you're going for geese, so leave the ducks at home. Get to where they want to be, brush in, go kill them.
Yeah. I think too, again, this is my opinion, and it's more focused around the areas I hunt, but people are so quick to buy mallard decoys and all these duck decoys when if you've got good numbers of Canada geese where you're at, if you would just spend your money on your Canada geese decoys and you throw them out, you're going to kill ducks over those too. You will. So, kind of weigh your options there, but yeah, I'd throw those Canadas out whether I was hunting ducks or geese, and I'd be more apt to throw 6 mallards and then continue to build the goose spread, vice the other way around. That's just me though, personally.
So what do you think?
I don't know. What else we got? Anything?
That's all I had set out.
I saw a question come up if guys typically get their eyebrows trimmed at the barber shop. Where do you stand on eyebrow trimming?
Not a waxing, although my wife tells me that my unibrow needs some help. But if
you got an eyebrow situation, unibrow.
Not really. There's like 4 or 5 hairs in there that I gotta control. But I'm starting to get some of those like old man / dad eyelashes or eyebrows that are just crazy long and like thick. So, I mean, if I'm getting my hair cut and they're like, do you need it trimmed up? Then I just, I take the hint and yeah, I don't know. We went to Pittsburgh the other day and went to Bahama Breeze, and the guy that was in the booth next to us needed it bad. Like I think he was getting food in his eyebrows. They were so gangly.
Yeah, eyebrow trimming is a staple for me. I didn't know that it was not a thing. Interesting.
Gotta look good.
Yeah, man. Gotta keep it tight. All right, what else?
Oh, not too much, man. You got some sports starting up. Still doing some swimming and dance and gymnastics every week, so I'm glad that we got on tonight. I had a little migraine issue earlier in the day, but fought through it. We're good to go.
Nice. Appreciate your effort, man. Good stuff.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got basketball wrapping up. Going to start baseball here before long. I'm telling you, and I know you probably experience this too, but like time just goes by so fast. It's like I felt like duck season just started yesterday. Mm-hmm. It's already over. It's going to be 100 degrees here before I know it. And then it'll be, back to the duck blind before I know it. It seems like every year the time goes by faster. And,
So you know what that means? That means that we need to start talking about a trip this year.
So I'm glad you mentioned this because I want to bring this up for everyone to hear because I think it's going to be really freaking sweet when it happens. We have full intentions of next fall doing a podcast recording from the field, like sitting in a blind together, doing a podcast episode. And if birds come in, you're just going to have to hang tight while we call them. Or if we got to shoot, you're going to hear it. And it's going to be like real life in the blind. And we're excited to do this. The big catch here, of course, is Dan has to actually agree to hunt with me for the first time in like 3 years. But assuming that happens,
it's been a while.
Yeah, assuming that happens, it'll be cool. I think it'd be really fun and interesting. Lord knows what we'd get into there. My goodness.
Oh my gosh. I don't. There's definitely be explicit on that, our usual duck blind banter.
Yeah, I mean, I hope. Yeah, that sounds like an editing nightmare. But we got to figure out where we're going to do that. That has to take place somewhere.
Somewhere with a lot of birds, because if we're just there talking about how no birds are flying, that'd be kind of boring. But if it was like, if that was every few minutes that we're like, oh, duck, 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 like my normal call, then and then some shots ring out, I think that'd be super fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
let's just not. We can't do it in negative 20-degree weather.
I would actually prefer to do it like on some honkers, kind of, because the action is not as. I don't want to say it's not as quick, but it's not as quick. You know what I mean? It's not like
it's not up on you.
Because we're gonna have like, I mean, think about this, dude. We're gonna have like wires hanging off of our heads and stuff in the blind. Like, it's not gonna be easy to just like maneuver around.
I've never shot with a headset on before. It should be all right.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like wearing, shooting muffs, but with a cord dangling off the side of it.
Well, I'm assuming by that time we'll have some like headsets with mics on it.
Right. We'll have to. But we're still going to have to be kind of tethered together with the mics into a recorder.
Right.
So we're going to have to be within like a pretty close proximity of each other. So there's some logistics that'll need to work out with that. But that's definitely one thing we want to do would be really sweet.
So many loud booyahs coming out.
Oh, Jesus. Booyah.
Double.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll be cool. But I do actually want to take a minute to, we've been getting a lot of support lately. And, I just want to, just take a second. I know I speak for Dan and just, say thank you to everyone. And we appreciate it. People buying barrel decals and, just doing donations and talking about raffles and stuff. All just super cool. Very, very humbling. Really do appreciate all the support from everybody. I mean, it's pretty wild to see people post pictures of, the HP Outdoors logo on their truck with a, sticker. I think you posted it in the group, Dan. I mean, it started as a sketch on a napkin, literally in 2011, or maybe right at the end of 2010. I mean, no, the end of 2011, I think it was. Just a sketch on a napkin, and then, now it's turned into what it has. So really cool. And, just appreciate everybody kind of coming along for the ride with us.
Yeah. Not much more to say than that. It is humbling. It's very humbling. And, guys we're getting a few invites here and there, and, come on out. It'll be a blast. And we're going to have to start taking them up on it, because I had a heck of a time up in Maine. And, I think the hunting from a blind and recording during a live hunt would be awesome.
Yep. I agree. I would agree. So cool. Well, hopefully, everyone, stuck with us as long and didn't shut the radio off when you start talking about your Michigan starter jacket. But let's go ahead and, for anybody that's still hanging on, let's go ahead and wrap this one up for them.
Yep.
All right, that does it for episode 70 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing us take on a couple of your questions. You can always submit questions to us via Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can send it to us via email, info@hpoutdoors.com. You can catch up on all the past episodes of the show at iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere that you can find quality podcast material. You can find us there. Again, as I mentioned, we appreciate all the support. Looking forward to getting back to you each and every week, so hang with us. So until next time, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.